So, what?
Here we go, my friends. Here we go. Okay. So what are we saying now? This is a commentary of the Rebbe that the Rebbe made in 1984 on the 14th chapter of the previous Rebbe's Hasidic discourse called Bati Lgani. That was the last Hasidic discourse which was given out by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe because it was considered to be his directions for our generations, which is the generation of the Moshiach, how to bring it. And a short resume, the Rebbe said that every Jew is a holy temple. And the holy temple was built by Moses, that he was the seventh generation from Abraham, that Abraham began to correct the sin of Adam. Adam and the ensuing generations, they drove God's presence away, what's called to the seventh heaven. And Abraham reversed the process and started bringing it down to the world until Moses finally brought it into the holy temple. And that means to us, but we have to do work. And one of the things, the works in the holy temple was to be crazy. The holy temple, the tabernacle, which is the prototype of the holy temple, the tabernacle, the walls were made of shittim wood. Shittim wood. Okay. So it says the Rebbe like this: those seven things that happened, those seven generations from Adam, that they sinned and they sinned and they sinned again and drove the Shekhinah far away, that they were bad, they were sins. But after it was done, we have to say that God wanted it to happen. God wanted, because nothing happens outside of God's will. So God wanted it to happen, even though they were sins and God did not want people to do sins. But after it's done, the good thing about a sin is that it has to be corrected. And the power to correct a sin comes from a deeper power than to just do good without any obstacles. So it says the reason, because that is what's going to draw down the essence of God's presence, the Shekhinah, into the physical world. Why? Because that the light of God will be revealed in the world higher than it was in the beginning of creation. Higher than it was, Yoter, even more than it was on its own in the beginning of the creation. That's what we're doing now. Because of these sins that these people did, and they made the world so susceptible to, and so, you say, convincing to go against God, and that God is not even here, and where all these other weird religions come from, and all these mistakes come from, and atheism, and all these things, the urges which are inside of us, why it comes from, because that's the seven generations that sinned. God wanted it to be that way. Why did he want it to be that way? So that we would defy it and we would transform it. And by means of our defying bad and transforming bad, there is a more revelation of God, more than what it was in Gan Eden before Adam ate from the tree. That's what it means, tzaddikim yirshu oretz. That's what it means, the tzaddikim, they will inherit the world and make and dwell forever on it. Forever means God, but it also means forever. The service of tzaddikim, which is all the Jews, is to draw down God's presence below into this physical world. This is about where we got to yesterday. Oh, guys, like this. Into the physical world on it in a way that it's forever. This is by means of doing Torah and the commandments, but it'll be and drawn down in a way forever. Why forever? We'll see. The reason why, and that the main Shekhinah will be drawn down by means of the service of the Jewish people now, that God's presence will be revealed here even more than it was before Adam ate from the tree, is because now we have to transform darkness. And Adam didn't have darkness. As Hapcha, transforming darkness. And when this darkness is transformed to light, by means of this, it's a better type of light. So you have problems in your life, you have difficulties in your life, you can't keep your mind concentrated on anything good. You did things bad in the past, you did things that were transgressions, that were sins, big mistakes, terrible mistakes you made in your life, right? So it says that's called darkness. Good. Now you have darkness. Now you have to transform it. And when you transform it, it's higher than if you wouldn't have had any darkness. But doing this is something like tshuva. The difference between doing tshuva, returning to God, and the play and compared to the service of tzaddikim, they don't have to return anyway. The tzaddikim are always people that always feel God. Like it says, kadaskafia sitra achra, like it says, when there is pushed away the sitra achra, the feeling of selfishness, then istalik yekora, there's spread out the glory of God in all of the worlds. That by means of iskafia, of ishapcha, by means of forcing yourself, going against your nature, and ishapcha, and transforming your nature, that you really start to enjoy doing what the Creator wants. There's nimsha, and you despise anything that the Creator doesn't want. Then it's drawn down a revelation of God, which is even higher. The way of revelation is romomut. It's a highness. It's something like the Special Olympics and the regular Olympics. The regular Olympics is more popular. People go there, they see the runners can run faster and they can jump higher and they can throw more and they get this. And then there's the Special Olympics, people that are missing a limb, they're missing something. But those people, those people in the Special Olympics, even though it might not be so popular, and so this, but they have a double, how do you say, opposition. Right, and this person just has to throw further than the other guy, or he has to run faster than the other guy, or he has to this. These people have to not only overcome the opposing team, they have to overcome themselves as well. So maybe nobody can see it, you can't see it, but the accomplishment is much greater. They also have to change their whole attitude toward themselves and to the same thing with us in the world. We have become crippled by our past sins and our past, in a way that's a good thing. Why is it good? It's terrible. It says because we can overcome the terrible. Now we can overcome some. That does not mean you should try to do sins in order to overcome them. Because if you do sins willfully, you're going to probably say, well, wow, if it's a good thing to overcome a little bit of sins, let's do a lot of sins. Because it feels a lot better to do sins than it does to defy the sins. Right? You know what? I'll do one more sin, one more, piece of not kosher food. It's really tasty, and then I'm really gonna return. Right? And then the next day I say I'll return. You know what? One more piece. Now I can return from eating 101 pieces of not kosher food. That's a big mistake. You can't do things like that. Right? But we're talking about if there were bad things in the past, then that's a good sign that you can transform them. And therefore, nikro b'shem estalik. That's what it says, that when a Jew goes against his natural will, it spreads out the glory of God. But the word is not as spreads out, it's the word goes away. Estalik means goes away. Why is it called go away? Because it's like all the world goes away. You're in a whole different level of reality. That's what's called estalik. That when a person stands against his own nature, for the sake of what Hashem wants, then the whole world, so to speak, his whole being goes up. Estalik. He becomes a different person. But that's what it means. Shehatchalas, the Mishkan, that the beginning of the Mishkan was from Karushim. It's from these boards, that the boards were made from Atzei Shittim, from the Shittim wood. The word for Keresh is the same letters as Sheker. Keresh means a board, and Sheker means a lie. It's the same exact letters. And we know that everything is created from the letters of God. So the same letters are used to create the lie and the deception of this world and how we fool ourselves. Those same letters are used to make the Holy Temple. It's just that the lie was here first, Sheker was here first. The Holy Temple was only built like 500 years after the world was created, right? After the Torah was given. So Sheker, the letter Sheker is just rearranged. That's something like the word acher. The word acher is the opposite of the word echad. Something like that. It's a tiruf acher. It's in another way. Acher means something else, like sitra achra, acher. So sheker is really just an improper or arrangement of God's energy, so it comes out to be lie. But if you arrange it properly, then it comes out to be good. But al yadei by means of avoda. But how do you have to arrange it properly? You have to do a work of asita crushing. You have to make the crushing for the mishkan, and you have to make them from shitim. Shitim means you have to be crazy. You have to transform the sheker, the lie of the world, to kerish, to the board of the mishkan, crushing of the mishkan of the tabernacle. How do you do that? By means of shtut. You have to be crazy. You have to be crazy. The shtut of this world, of the opposite of the world, you have to transform that the shtut of kedusha, of holiness. Ateshite. Let's take an example, a person that he wants popularity. So he's willing to do anything for popularity, anything, and he gets it. He does it. He makes it. He got to the level he's popular and he has money and it is everything, but he's got no meaning. He has no, what does he have to do? He has to say, listen, I became popular because I stood up on the stage and I ate not kosher food. I ate live, rats or something like that. There was a guy like that. So that's how I became popular. And everybody's looking forward for me to doing it again. And if I don't do it, everybody's going to be disappointed and I'm going to lose my popularity. I really want the popularity. And you know what? I'm starting to enjoy those live rats to eat them. It's really tastes good. Someone comes along and says, man, you're going against what the creator wants. The creator says that's forbidden. Even for a non-Jew, it's forbidden. But you're not allowed to do it. Yeah. So he said, really, you can't do it, but I'm going to lose my popularity. That's crazy. This is the goal. This is what everybody wants. I reached the top. I'm the top of the world. And it says, what can you do? You got to be crazy. That's exactly right. You have to be crazy. If you want to do what God wants, sometimes it means you have to be crazy. But in the end, it's meaningful. By means of this, made the Hamshachas Ikr, there's draw down the main Shekhinah in the world. God's presence is in the world, that there's all of a sudden less people get enjoyment from seeing somebody stand on the stage and eating a rat. Just an example. And people say, maybe I'll get enjoyment from having a family, from being a good person. That's sissy stuff. A family. What are you talking about? No, that's really enjoyment. It's I'm going to enjoy being honest. All these mafia people, instead of they give all the money back. So what's going on? I said, I'm going to be honest. Before you were doing whatever you wanted to, right? There was movies about you. I want to be honest. Until that's called forcing yourself. Until finally you enjoy it. You enjoy it. That's called making God revealed in the world. Ba'ofen and alal way. You enjoy saying the truth. You enjoy being kind. Right? You can't stand, it's disgusting to you to tell a lie. You can't bear to see somebody hurt. This is a higher than it was in the beginning. This reveals godliness more than it was in the beginning of the creation. Mamshech b'Maimer, and it continues in the Maimer and Bati Lgani, that therefore the Jewish people are called Tzivot Hashem. They're called the armies of God. That's why the Jewish people are called the armies of God. Like it says, on that day when the Jews left Egypt, came out all the armies of God from the land of Egypt. That's what we're talking about in the Maimer, right? The armies of God, and that's not a holy name. But that 400 years later, whatever, when Chana used this name Tzivot. What is the name Tzivot? The armies of God. The Jews are called the armies of God. Why are they called the armies of God? Because what does a soldier do? We'll see. A soldier has to win a battle. And the way he wins a battle is through self-sacrifice. Let's explain what is the connection. Why are the Jewish people called the armies of God? Why? Soldiers of God. Because that which the Jewish people, they are not intimidated by the darkness and the lies of the world, and exactly the opposite. They transform the darkness and the lies of the world into holiness, because the world essentially is good. The world is essentially holy and good. Because the Jewish people, they have to be soldiers. They have to be soldiers. That's called Masirut Nefesh. The Jews have to risk their lives or risk their will, give their soul away, but Kabbalat Ol, and accept the yoke of God. Accepting the yoke of God means doing what God said, even if it doesn't make any sense, even though it's against my sense. Right? My main income is on Shabbat. I'm a taxi driver. I make more on Shabbat than I make any 2 days of the week. If I'm a Jewish taxi driver, I'm not going to drive on Shabbat. What's going to be with my income? I don't know. Kabbalah, I'm going to do what God says. We're going to see what happens, right? I'm going to do what I'm losing money. Look, I started losing. I'm doing what God says, and it ends up okay. We have the Jewish taxi drivers. I have experience in it. Experience works out okay, but in the beginning, it's a self-sacrifice. It's like jumping into the fire. Therefore, the Jewish people are called the armies of God. Army, an army. This is soldiers. This is the connection between this, that the Jewish people are the armies of God, with the idea of going out of Egypt. When did they start becoming called the armies of God, the soldiers of God? When they left Egypt. The Torah, this whole term, the name of Tzvot, the armies of God, this was given to the Jewish people when they came out of Egypt. Because the service and exile of Egypt, and similarly Bakala Galut, and all of the exiles, all of the kingships are called by the name of Egypt, because they are Meitzarim. Why are they called Mitzrayim? Because Meitzaros, they make trouble for the Jews. Shemeitzarim, that they make trouble, they pain the Yehudim, make pain for the Jews. In the Yiddish it says, they macht eng, they make pain, difficulty for the Jewish Yiddishkeit, Judaism, and Jews. Hu ba'ofen is a way of how do you get rid of this? By Kabbalat Olam Mesirat Nefesh. You have to have the acceptance of the yoke and self-sacrifice. By means of this, behold, Israel, all of the Jewish people, there was light in their dwellings. Gam ben even when they're found the Moshiach in the exile of Egypt. What happened? The last plague in Egypt was the killing of the firstborn. But before that, there was the plague of darkness. What was the plague of darkness? There was this intense, super darkness all over Egypt that no one could see anything. You could not see anything. If you put your hand in front of you couldn't see anything. And by the Jews, they could see. By the Jews, it says that not only could they see only in their Dalet Amos, in the area around them, but also B'kol Makom, any place that a Jew went, even to the houses of the Egyptians, there was light, and he could go and shine there, what's in the houses and what's in their secret chests and the hidden places. Why? What's the importance of taking out the money of the Egyptians? It says, because this was a preparation for Yinatzlu at Mitzrayim. They took out all of the sparks of meaning and holiness and power and life and energy that were in Egypt. That's what kept Egypt being a superpower, because they had all these units of energy and life, godly life, trapped there. And the Jewish people, by means of their self-sacrifice, after this, and they left Egypt, they took out those sparks, and there were even more sparks. It says the Egyptians pursued them. That's going to be next week, it's Torah portion. The Egyptians pursued the Jews, and they drowned in the sea of the Egyptians, and they were pursuing the Jews. They took all of the riches of Egypt, they took with them. They thought they were going to kill all the Jews, and they were going to have a big party. They were going to rejoice, right? Like the Hamas, like the Palestinians rejoiced when the Hamas came back and told them that what they did. Oh, everybody was happy. They were having big parties, giving out candies in the streets, right? Then it was even more. Paro went after, and they took all their jewelry and all their bling blings and all their gold and their silvers and everything, and they took it all to the sea, and they all drowned. And it says that it all washed up on the sea. More money. More money. It wasn't money. These were sparks of meaning that the Jewish people, they took out of Egypt. It says that there was more treasure on the Bizat Hayam than the Bizat Hayam than there was on the Yam Suf. There was more treasure washed up, riches washed up of the Jewish people than there was than the Jewish people took out of Egypt. The Otanei Tzutzos, because those sparks of meaning that were not in the ability of the Jews to refine when they were in Egypt, because they were too concealed in Egypt, Paro himself took them out. And Jewish people were able to redeem them at the Bizat Hayam. That's the reason we're in the world, to use the world properly. When we do that, it says it raises up sparks. The Jewish people going out of Egypt took all the sparks of meaning out of Egypt. And when they crossed over the sea and the soldiers ran after them and were drowned, it says even more riches. And all these riches were sparks of meaning that were supposed to be used for holy things and good things in the world. and the Egyptians used them for decadence and for terror. This was the preparation for the giving of the Torah. Like it says, Vayasa Moshe Yisrael, that Moses had to force the Jewish people to move from Yam Suf, that he forced them to leave these Bizatayom because he said, we're doing something even greater, receiving the Torah. That's why the Jewish people, when they came out of Egypt, were called the armies of God. The armies of God, it's not a name of God, not Tzivaot Hashem, like Tzivaot, like Hashem Tzivaot. It's not one of the names of God. This is the holy name. One of the names, 7 names that shouldn't be erased. Like we said, that Chana was the first to use it. This was revealed by means of the prophets. But in the Torah, it's not mentioned this name of Tzivaot. That the Jewish people are called Tzivaot Hashem, the armies of God, it means this is Samuch. They are the armies, but they are the armies of God. It's not holy. It's not holy. We're talking about the Jewish people, how they are in the physical, normal, mundane, not holy world, but they are totally surrendered to God. Tzivaot, they are the armies of God. It's Samuch. Tzivaot are secondary. They're totally surrendered to God. The bittul kabbalat all. This is called surrender. The acceptance of the yoke, like a soldier, to God, which is above nature. And by means of this, they could reveal and elevate even the sparks which are found in Egypt. Egypt was called Erva Ta'oretz, the most disgusting, decadent, whatever it is, the licentious place in the world. Even the sparks which were completely concealed. Okay. And the source of all this concealment comes from the name Elohim. Elohim, which is nature, and this is what we're going to take off from tomorrow. We're going to learn tomorrow. Now let's learn, do the Yom Yom.